And greetings, mi amigos. It is another episode of The Miracle Within. And tonight we will be advancing with both a little brief look at some more of the text, as well as looking at a few lessons. And the lessons are really starting to have an effect in that it is helping us reconstruct our thinking and create a new vision of what kind of a reality we actually exist in. So as we continue to advance with dialoguing about both the text as well as the lessons in the workbook, more and more you will get more of a sense of clarity that, the Course offers us. Clarity on who we are, clarity on who God is, and reducing the sense of distance between the two. Because ultimately that's what the Course affords us, is the experience of having that direct union, that direct communion with God. And that is the one thing and the only thing that will be the salvation of this world, is that awakening to the realization that you have never been separate from God, and that God is, in fact, a source of life, a source of awareness, a source of everything that we need to get us through this journey on this material level. So we will start off with this next level here in the workbook, and we're looking at chapter 2, the separation and the atonement, and we're going all the way up now to section 4, which is healing as a release from fear. And this is the definition of not only healing, but what a miracle actually is. If you'll remember from the previous editions, we've been looking very much in the direction of the miracle and trying to really get a sense of clarity around what a miracle means. And now we're going to delve more into that level of healing. And if you've ever been around Christian scientists or science of mind students, or the various schools of metaphysics, you will hear undoubtedly multiple stories about the healing of the physical body, and how that was experienced, how that was created by reaching out to God. And the Course in Miracles, more than any other venue that I have experienced, gives us a very clear and a very direct understanding as to how the miracle occurs and how the healing occurs as well. So as we progress here, our emphasis is now on healing. The miracle is the means. The atonement is the principle. And, that idea of atonement, becoming one with God at one minute, that is the catalyst for this process of healing. To speak of a miracle of healing is to combine two orders of reality inappropriately. Healing is not a miracle. The atonement, or the final miracle, is a remedy, and any type of healing is the result. The kind of error to which atonement is applied is irrelevant. So there is no order of difficulty in healing. You can be healing a hangnail, or you can be healing congestive heart failure. It's all the same thing, because it's all occurring in that realm of the mind. The kind of error to which atonement is applied is irrelevant. All healing is essentially the release from fear. To undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. You do not understand healing because of your own fear. And what would that fear be? Well, we have a lot of different ways of misidentifying fear. You know, we have a fear of lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Or we have a fear of not having enough money in our bank account, or a fear of falling off a ledge. We have a multitude of different fears that we're constantly having to address. But underneath these, if you start peeling the layers off, if you start getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the levels of truth, you will discover that what you imagined your fear to be based upon is in fact erroneous. Because at the core of all fear, we have this primordial fear of God. We feel like we have rejected God, we have pushed God away, we have attempted to kill God, and that God is going to get revenge. God is going to get even with us. So even the most devout people that I have been around, when they actually start examining their thoughts, when they start working with their meditation, when they really start closing in on that idea of eliminating thinking from the mind and going into the silence, they will get up to a point where fear will arise. And that fear is very slippery. It's like grabbing a fish fresh out of a pond. You know, it's going to slither around and slip out of your hands, because the ego realizes that if you confront that fear, you will be liberated. And liberation from the ego is ultimately what we are trying to achieve. So what's going to happen is when you grab onto that fish at that stage where you're ready to confront the truth, you will discover that the core fear that we all experience is our fear of God, and our fear of communion with God, our fear of intimacy with God. So that's really the foundation that healing occurs on. I hear a lot of people say, oh, you can't really go into this process of attaining enlightenment with a desire to heal your body, or to heal your bank account, or to heal this, or to heal that. But the truth is, when we are without that connection to God, when we are without that source of financial security, when we are without that source of bodily harmony, that suffering that we experience is actually one of the paths to God. It is through the suffering and through the desire to eliminate the suffering that we come to the awareness that the desires that we have had to change our physical experience in life are really irrelevant, because the more we seek, the more we come to understand that what we really want is God. We want God in totality. We want that union with God. So any avenue that you are engaged in, any path that you're on, you're ultimately going to get to the right place. You're going to get to that final destination point. So you don't have to make a lot of radical adjustments. Just continue to examine what is going on. Continue to approach that silence. Continue to try and still the mind. And you will begin to see, as you are delving deeper and deeper into these different regions, that behind everything else, there is this deep longing that we all have to re-experience that union with our source, with divinity. And within that, it's not just God as a singular idea, but God as all of creation. So eventually we get down to that place where we recognize that all of humanity and all of what appears to be life in this material world is what we are in truth seeking to have that union with. So going a little bit further here, it says a major step in the atonement plan is to undo error at all levels. Sickness or not right-mindedness is the result of level confusion, because it always entails the belief that what is amiss on one level can adversely affect another. We have referred to miracles as a means of correcting level confusion, for all mistakes must be corrected at the level on which they occur. Only the mind is capable of error. The body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. So again, we're getting back to that idea of a physical healing is not happening in the body itself. The ultimate result will appear in the body, but the actual process that is going on is addressing a misthought or a misunderstanding or a misconception of who you are, what you are, and what your real desires, wants, and needs amount to. So, continuing here, the body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error, produces all physical symptoms. So we project into this body this belief that it is a living entity unto itself. But the truth is, if you really stop and think about it, if you've ever witnessed somebody transcending the body, somebody leaving, if you've sat with your father, your mother, your grandfather, an uncle, an aunt, a friend, and actually experienced that moment when they drop their connection to the body, you will observe that the body is inert. It is there is nothing to the body that would indicate that there was ever life there to begin with. It starts to take on an odor. It starts to decompose. It goes through a lot of variations of disassembling itself. And that is because the entire time that we've occupied the body, it has been as a result of our belief in a body. So we're getting into kind of interesting areas here. And I'm not encouraging you to like drop your medication and run off and try to attain some kind of spiritual plateau where you're healing everything strictly from spirit before you are ready to make that adjustment. But I am saying eventually we will all arrive at a point where we realize that any kind of ailment, any kind of sickness, any kind of malfunction within the body is really a dysfunction within the mind. We have to get the mind under control. And we also have to be aware of the fact that we are not our mind. That's another very important distinction. We have a mind, and our mind is constantly working, but we are beyond just being a mind. So we're going into different levels of awakening here. We're getting everything into these various plateaus of understanding. And as we do that, as we are receptive, as we are standing in our truth, the world around us begins to readjust itself, because our thinking is going from madness, which was that idea of the separation, toward awakening and toward being healed, which is that idea of we are one humanity, we are one child of the divine, and we are so intimately connected to the divine that there is no distinction between God and God's creation. So this is a very powerful approach to healing. And like I said, you don't want to just launch off on your own. You have to work your way up to it through various levels. And that's what the workbook is all about. So we're going to zip over here to the workbook. And that's assuming I can get all of my pages corrected here. And we're moving from lesson 12. If you'll remember, last week we were looking at lesson 12. And lesson 12 was telling us, I am upset because I see a meaningless world. And that's what we've created. We've created a disjuncted, dysfunctional world. And I don't think at any time in human history have we ever been able to actually look at that and realize the validity of this idea. Because we have the internet, we have instantaneous communication all around the world. And as events occur, we can watch them on live feeds through the internet. So we are at a place in time where there is this astonishing opportunity to actually step to a higher plateau, step above this realm of chaos and observe it for what it actually is. It is nuts. And, you know, don't deceive yourself. Don't imagine that, oh, I'm just going to go away to Fiji and live, you know, on coconuts and sleep on the beach and life is going to be perfect. The truth is, the madness that we have created in this world is going to follow you wherever you go in this world. So the only way that you're going to experience peace in this world is when you're at peace with yourself. You know, if you're projecting your consciousness out there and observing the chaos that's going on in the world around us, you're going to arrive at a point where you're confronted with reality that this stuff that you're seeing, this madness that you're seeing, can only have one origin point. And that origin point is within your own mind. So all of your thinking, all of your misdirected thoughts especially, but even your proper thoughts are generating this world that doesn't really make any sense when we get down to the bare bones of it. So going on to lesson 13, this is a beautiful, beautiful part of the lessons. It says, a meaningless world engenders fear. And that is really a fact. If you get out there and you move around and you look at what's going on in the world, everybody is afraid. Everybody's got a fear of being shot in the back or run down by a lunatic or in a bombing or in a fire or in a hurricane or a tornado. So this whole world was created as a way of creating fear or projecting fear outside of us so that we don't confront the fact that the fear is really deeply buried within us. So projection creates perception. Everything is happening in the realm of the mind. And the only way that we're going to heal the world is for each one of us to individually start off on a path of healing our mind. So this is where the idea of psychotherapy comes into play as far as A Course in Miracles is concerned. Because we're not really trying to heal the body. We're not really trying to heal humanity in the sense of going out there and participating in all these different events where we're, you know, saving the whales and saving the water and saving this and saving that, because that's just going to continue to loop around. When you get one thing under control, then something else slides off the table. So what we have to do is recognize that the whole process is happening in our consciousness. And when we heal our mind, we share that with all of humanity, because there is no separation. We are all one, in fact. We may have this little ego bubble and believe that we are superior or inferior or apart from everybody else on the planet. The truth is, we are all one, and we are one in a very intimate way, in that there is no separation, there is no distinction between the spirit of one person and the spirit of another person. You know, it's all one spirit joined eternally. And that's the beauty of beginning to awaken, beginning to step into your truth and your reality, so that you realize the work that you're doing on your own spiritual path has an absolutely astonishing impact on all of human beingness anywhere in the universe. You know, if you believe in UFOs and alien contact and yada, 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 then you're helping those guys too. You're helping the dogs, you're helping the cats, you're helping the whales, you're helping the forests, all because you are putting your attention on getting your mind healed, getting that block out of the way so that you are re-experiencing union with the Creator, with perfection, with harmony, with truth. So this is a great lesson. And it goes on to say, today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, except that it is more specific as to the emotions that are aroused. Actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. However, if it does not follow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do not perceive it. So, as we're beginning to step into that place of ownership, we begin to recognize that what we imagine to be meaningless is in fact something that we have created that we are rejecting or pushing away from us. And we have to stop and look at every event that we experience in life and ask, why did I create this? Why did I bring this into being? Why am I a part of this phenomenon or that phenomenon? So really, you know, this whole world that we imagine to be an exterior phenomenon, in truth, is an interior process that is going on. And that's pretty mind-boggling when you really stop and think about it. That's an astonishing statement to make. People can say, oh, 9/11, those planes crashing into those buildings, I saw it with my own eyes, and went back and, you know, was at the memorial when they dedicated it, yada, yada, yada. And it seems to us that all of this stuff is real in this exterior world. But the truth of it is that it is all happening in our mind. And it is happening on such a expanded level that it's almost impossible not to believe it. And that really is our challenge as people who are trying to awaken from the illusion, and people who are trying to step into our own truth. We have to be willing to acknowledge that this was something we created, and we have the tools and the direction and the guidance to uncreate it. And that's where the real truth lies. And that's where we arrive at a point where we are stepping out of the idea of being a victim, because victimhood is really a very unnecessary way to live in this world. And if you're still on that level of embracing victimhood, you're going to get banged up quite a bit. And it's going to be you who beats the hell out of you. So, you know, you really have to look at that. I know in my own life, as I have grown more deeply into this understanding, a lot of the opportunities that I created for myself to become a victim, all of a sudden the bells go off and the red lights start flashing, and I realize, oh, I'm setting myself up for a bad ride here. Why am I doing this? And I retreat back into my meditation, into my prayer, and into my stillness, and ask myself, what is it that motivates me to create this for myself to have to uncreate? So there is immediate payoffs as you start to really enter into your own spiritual journey. You will discover that the rewards are so great that the little bit of suffering that you may imagine yourself to be experiencing by having to confront these things and having to enter into these discussions with yourself are actually a source of joy. You know, that sounds pretty dumb, but the truth is the suffering frequently can be the way to experiencing the deepest level of harmony you've ever experienced in your life. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to go the avenue of suffering. I have friends, I have people that I know who have beautifully leapt over that kind of a Grand Canyon of cause and effect. And they, in this lifetime at least, appear to have come in a very peaceful way, in a very joyous way, in a very loving way, without a lot of struggle, without a lot of issues. But, you know, if you look back at previous lifetimes, they have gone through their own suffering at their own time. So if suffering shows up on your doorstep, don't panic and don't avoid it. Confront it, look at it, and ask yourself, why am I causing myself to suffer? Is this necessary? And then you're on the road. Then you're actually picking up speed. You're moving forward. So continuing with this idea of a meaningless world suggests fear, or creates fear, engenders fear. We are, again, arriving at a point where we can accept the truth. And the truth is that the things that our sensory input are proclaiming to us are not at all real. And it is a con job that we are doing to ourselves. So a little bit further on, it says, recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. So as you start to work with the Course, as you start to do these lessons, you will notice that there will be times when anxiety comes up and you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling a little spaced out, a little ziggy at times. And it's because your mind is having to look at all of this realistically and having to adjust to the fact that the mind itself has the power and the ability to create all of this and to do this. So anxiety is definitely a part of the journey. As you're first entering into this journey toward truth, you are going to feel anxious because you've been identifying so completely with your ego. And your ego is all of a sudden starting to be undermined. Your ego is all of a sudden starting to have fractures occur in it. The foundation is starting to tremble. So there will be moments of fear, moments of anxiety, moments when you need to reach out and talk to somebody, or to hold somebody's hand, or, you know, to get some kind of comfort. But the comforter, the great comforter, is always residing within you, the Holy Spirit. So whenever you're feeling that anxiety, whenever you're feeling those fears, go into that state of solitude and quietness, you know, and look at the Holy Spirit and ask the Holy Spirit for resolution, for a state of peace to come into play. And that door, that gateway will begin to open up to you. Your friends can support you, your loved ones can support you. You know, people around you, fellow members who are on the path can be very supportive. But really you need that intimate interaction with the Holy Spirit, with the divine. The Holy Spirit is a direct representative of God. You know, God can't come into this world because God is pure and perfect, and this world is rife with duality and imperfection. But God was capable of anticipating that once we begin to fall into this dream, this illusion of a life apart, that we would need that communication device to help us come back home. So within the collective consciousness of the sonship, all of God's creation, the Holy Spirit is embedded there. And once this illusion is all over, wound up and finished off, the Holy Spirit really won't have any function. But right now, rely on the Holy Spirit. Go inside and ask for relief, ask for assistance, ask for guidance, because it's a powerful, powerful tool, and it will always yield a result. You just have to slow your mind down enough so that you can hear what the Holy Spirit is communicating to you. So it says, it is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaninglessness and accept it without fear. You have this power. You know, this is the thing. We are always disempowering ourselves. The truth is, we have the power. Our will can, in fact, as Jesus alluded to, pick up the mountain and cast it into the sea. Our willpower is the most powerful force in any universe. And we have to recognize that we have that resource within us. We have to validate ourselves on that level. You can't just stumble around on a planet wailing and beating your breast and saying, I don't have any power. That simply is not truth. And that's going to get you into even more trouble. So why go there? Anyway, that's lesson number 13. And it is, again, a part of a big, big turning point in looking at who we are and how we identify with ourselves. And hopefully, it starts to fracture that wall that we have built against truth. Going on to the next lesson, real fast here, lesson 14, God did not create a meaningless world. So the world that we're looking at was not created by God. And that is, again, a key element in taking responsibility for the truth of our existence, the truth of our being, and realizing that we are not a victim of any of this stuff that's going on in the world around us. He goes on to say here, the idea for today is, of course, the reason why a meaningless world is impossible. So we try to convince ourselves that the world we're in is meaningless. The truth is, it's very fearful for us, but we have created it out of our fear, which is, you know, the ultimate catch-22. What God did not create does not exist. And everything that does exist exists as He created it. The world you see has nothing to do with reality. It is of your own making, and it does not exist. Wow. That really blows a huge gap in that wall that we have been holding on to and reinforcing. So the only thing that is real is what God has created. We go back to the very beginning of the text in A Course in Miracles, you know, and that's the foundation that all truth is established on. All that God created is perfect, eternal, and sacred. All that we have created is chaotic, because there are some brilliant, brilliant things that we have created in this world. Beauty beyond belief, beauty beyond exception, but also some of the most grotesque things parallel that. And that's the tragedy of what we have engendered in this world. We have created that duality, and so for every good, there is an equal side to that coin, and that is the bad. So we're getting closer and closer, really, to becoming more comfortable with this process of approaching God again, reaching out to God, asking God for assistance, insight, you know, and God literally is love by definition. So the only response that you're ever going to get from God is pure love. And we have imagined for so long that God is this wrathful being and He's going to squash us like a bug and put us in eternal damnation. And nothing could be further from the truth. We really have to get honest with ourselves about what's going on. So that puts us at a few minutes over on tonight's discussion. I really would encourage you to pick up A Course in Miracles and spend some time with it. My website, as an introduction to A Course in Miracles, is found at www.themiraclewithin, all one word, .org. That gives you a lot of fundamental observations about A Course in Miracles, what it offers and what it is based on. And all of the other videos I do are found there, so do stop by and check out the website. And in 1 week, we will reconvene and continue with lesson number 15. Lesson 15 is really another great lesson. I'll give you a little hint here of where we're going to arrive at. It says, my thought are images that I have made. So think about that. All of the thoughts that you are having during the week between now and next Wednesday are images that you have made. And we will see you in 7 days. Have a very blessed week. Get out there, share the love, pass the love around, and just enjoy life. Life is love.